he gave away a few years ago. Both guys are southpaws, Devon Alexander and Victor Ortiz. Alexander trained under Kevin Cunningham, who he has been with since 7 years old. As you see, Devon Alexander, who is the father of 3. He has certainly prided himself on being an advocate of those who deal with addiction to painkillers. He dealt with the same thing. Victor Ortiz, the father of the young son, Victor Royal Ortiz. They're both starting off, throwing jabs at one another. Neither one wants to make a mistake in this, our main event here in El Paso, Texas. And you overheard Kevin Cunningham saying to Devon Alexander, do not reach. Coming in is Victor Ortiz. Great to be with all of you here in El Paso, Texas. Ray Flores here ringside. A straight left, that connected on the jaw of Victor Ortiz. Alexander seems to be more warmed up than what Ortiz is. Ortiz looks very good. He's physically an imposing figure. Alexander proud to represent St. Louis. Under a minute left here in this first round. High level chest between Ortiz and Alexander. Ortiz looking to cut off the ring. A straight left that connected by Alexander. Ortiz looking to cut off the ring. Make it a very difficult fight physically for Devon Alexander. For Devon Alexander, he's had signature wins over Marcos Maidana, Andre Kotelnik, Randall Bailey, been in there against the likes of Sean Porter, a sweeping right hook, as well as Amir Khan. Victor Ortiz also fought Marcos Maidana, Josecito Lopez, Andre Berto twice. And Victor Ortiz for 2, this one's scheduled for 12. The speed from both fighters is very much something to look at and admire, because Devon Alexander fast, muscle twitches. He's very fast hands. Victor Ortiz likes to sit down on his punches. And that was a straight left. Off balance was Ortiz, but it may have been that he was off balance and he got tagged with a straight left from Alexander. And if you're Victor Ortiz, you got to be active. You can't allow Devon Alexander to pick you apart from the outside, because Devon Alexander, and what a three-punch combination that was punctuated by a straight left hand snapping the head back of Victor Ortiz. And for Devon Alexander, his mindset should be to throw off the rhythm, and a big right hook coming inside was Victor Ortiz. Ortiz is someone that if he gains confidence early, he will be problematic to deal with. But if you're Alexander, you need to stick that jab in his face, throw off his timing, throw off his rhythm, and make Ortiz doubt himself. If you're Ortiz, you need to cut off the ring early, really make Devon Alexander feel uncomfortable to where he isn't willing to sit down on his punches and extend on that jab. Midway point of the second. Alexander using those angles and those feints. And John Shorley warning Victor Ortiz about coming in with the head. And chance of Ortiz here at the Don Haskins Center in El Paso. building named after the legendary coach Don Haskins, who led UTEP to a national championship in 1966 over Kentucky. Victor Ortiz crowding Devon Alexander. Alexander wisely spinning him around. Alexander went to the body, but a sweeping right hook that missed for Ortiz. And a straight left that caught the temple of Ortiz. Kevin Cunningham wants Devon Alexander to use the stick, meaning use the jab. Under 10 seconds to go here in the second. Neither man wants to make a mistake, but at some point they're going to have to gamble, and that's the end of the second. And here's a look at some of the action. Our fantastic crew, that was the jab, or the straight left that factors. But now they are inside the ring against one another with the stakes really being so high. Ortiz has got to cut off the ring, and a way to cut off the mobility of a fighter who moves is to go to the body, and what a jab there by Alexander. And that halted Ortiz in his tracks, but Ortiz comes forward, throwing a lot of venom, followed by a straight left, and the fans liking that here at the Don Haskins Center in El Paso. Alexander with the right hook that misses. 147 is always a talented division. One of the glamour divisions in boxing. A right hook that connected, it buzzed Victor Ortiz. Now Kevin Cunningham wants Alexander to come forward. For Ortiz, you have to use angles to get on the inside and use your jab to try to frustrate, and he did exactly that. And they both exchanged jabs. Alexander smiled at him. And Cunningham has been chastising Kevin Cunningham has been chastising Devon Alexander as to say, do not reach. You leave yourself susceptible to be countered with that straight left. But if you're Ortiz, he should focus in on the body. You should go to try to rip away and take away some of the steam out of the legs of Devon Alexander. Hit the hips if you can. Obviously, it has to be legal and on the belt line, but hit the hips. Make sure that the legs start wearing on Devon Alexander. That's what Victor Ortiz and Joseph Janik, known as Coach Haas, should be trying to tell Victor Ortiz, because Devon Alexander has very good head movement, and you're not going to be able to catch the head often. Where you should focus in on is attacking the body and try to cut away the mobility of Alexander. As we have 1 minute to go here in the third. Whereas if you're Devon Alexander, it's that disrupting for him. He needs to continue to disrupt the timing of Victor Ortiz. When Ortiz is trying to get off and throw those straight lefts, that jab comes in, or a straight left, things to frustrate Victor Ortiz and make him question and contemplate whether or not he wants to come inside with as much vigor as he's been demonstrating. A right hook that was partially blocked by Ortiz. A straight left down the middle that caught Victor Ortiz on the jaw. Victor Ortiz having been to the ring with Floyd Mayweather, the former world champion. Mayweather knocked him out, and obviously there was some controversy to it, but Victor Ortiz, he's been in movies as well. The Expendable has been on television here in the United States, Dancing with the Stars. He's been in movies with Sylvester Stallone and a host of others, and Vargas is going to have his work cut out for him when it comes to making sure that it doesn't become an issue. Devon Alexander wearing the silver and the red. Also wearing the silver and the red is Victor Ortiz, his son Victor Royal Ortiz, who just turned 1 last month. Watching at home. A straight left down the middle that connects again for Alexander. And Ortiz comes inside, but Alexander ties him up. And Kevin Cunningham, they want Devon Alexander to just box. And so far, it's been working for him. Alexander, a straight left hand. And they are really touched, wants this fight. coming inside is Ortiz, but he's still hesitant because he's tasted some power from Devon Alexander. And this is where Devon Alexander wants to be, in the center of the ring, jabbing, using his straight left, setting traps for Ortiz to come in where he can counter. Because at some point now, Victor Ortiz is going to have to get more aggressive. A right hook that found its mark for Ortiz. Big shot there for the 31-year-old. .70 seconds remaining here in the fourth. And a big straight left hand that backed up Ortiz right on his chin. And Alexander, he is looking, and you could tell that he is reacting so well to the punches that Ortiz is throwing at him. He's blocking a lot of them. He's using those feints that are given Victor Ortiz a lot of issues. It is emblematic that Devon Alexander is the more technical boxer, but Victor Ortiz has got to make this and transition it from being a boxing match to a fight. In the fighter meetings, Victor Ortiz said, look, people don't think that I can box. It's clear Ortiz can box, but it's a different level of pure boxing ability when you're in there against the likes of Devon Alexander. Alexander going to the body with the right hook. And that'll conclude the fourth round. Here is some of the action. And look at that straight left right on the chin of Victor Ortiz. Alexander coming in for Victor Ortiz. So a lot of parallels between the two combatants here tonight, between Devon Alexander and Victor Ortiz. But Devon Alexander is really looking very sharp here in his second fight back after dealing with his addiction to painkillers and being in rehab. And Alexander, 6-3, his record against former champions, wins over DeMarcus Chop Chop Coley, Juan Urango, Junior Ritter, Andre Kotelnik, Marcos Maidana, Randall Bailey. Losses to Sean Porter, Mir Khan in a technical decision loss at the hands of Timothy Bradley. Victor Ortiz 5-4-1 against former world champions. A win and a loss to Andre Berto. And look at Devon Alexander. Win over Vivian Harris, Nate Campbell, Carlos Mausa. Lost to Floyd Mayweather, Luis Calazo, and also Marcos Maidana. But he did beat Lamont Peterson, or he had a draw with Lamont Peterson, I stand corrected. And that's not an easy task whatsoever. What a big shot there by Alexander. And another one. Kevin Cunningham urging Devon Alexander to go to the body. And Victor Ortiz, his body language isn't showing it yet, but you know that mentally he's getting frustrated by this moving Rubik's Cube that is Devon Alexander. Under a minute left here in the fifth. And the hand speed is starting to show in the favor of Devon Alexander. Now Ortiz coming in with a flurry, and he gets tagged with the right hook. Ortiz is fishing, but when he went fishing, he was lit up with the right hook. And a nice uppercut. He went with the right hook, followed by an uppercut, did Devon Alexander, snapping the head up of Victor Ortiz. Ortiz comes forward. He gets caught with a counter straight left. Now Ortiz answering back, but he gets caught with a straight left from Alexander. Threw one or two, and he got clocked by 4-5. That is the end. And here is some of the work. Another straight left on the right side of the head of Victor Ortiz. And there's Round number 6, this one's scheduled for 12. Devon Alexander's looking very good here in the fight. Victor Ortiz, it's not panic time just yet, but he has really got to apply the pressure to Devon Alexander. And look at the distance and the range in which Devon Alexander's fighting. Every time Victor Ortiz tries to cut off the distance, the footwork of Devon Alexander is something to really behold. And he sends out that jab nicely. He's in perfect balance. He doesn't get frazzled when Ortiz applies pressure. But if you're Ortiz, you've got to get in and maybe grab that right arm of Devon Alexander, get in close, tie up, throw punches on the brakes, and the chance of let's go Ortiz. But Victor has really got to start to throw, and he's got to make it a tough fight, a physically grinding fight upon Devon Alexander. That he's not doing. There you see Kevin Cunningham watching intently, a man who he feels is literally pretty much like his son in Devon Alexander. Kevin Cunningham had no idea that Devon Alexander was addicted to painkillers for over 4 to 5 years. When Alexander came back from the hospital and a big shot there by Victor Ortiz to the body. When Alexander went to the hospital, when he blacked out, went to the hospital, what a combination, but a right hook there by Victor Ortiz. And the action is heating up here in El Paso in the Sun City. But answering back is Devon Alexander right to the body of Victor Ortiz. But the chemistry that Alexander and Kevin Cunningham have, Alexander called Kevin Cunningham the day after he passed out from having too many pills and told him, I have something to tell you. Kevin was blown away because Alexander never touched a sip of alcohol in his life, or any substance for that matter. And a big straight left. What a sledgehammer of a left hand for Devon Alexander. He looks very sharp tonight. And another chopping straight left hand by Devon Alexander. And the left eye is really swelling, a black eye developing for Victor Ortiz. Final 10 seconds of the 6th. Victor Ortiz, a big straight left hand digging down deep, much to the delight of the fans here in El Paso, and we are halfway home. And here is some of the work. Victor not get erratic. Oh my goodness, what an uppercut to start the 7th for Devon Alexander. That jacked the jaw of Ortiz. Really appreciate our fine crew here in El Paso. And Devon Alexander circling very well. But if you're Victor Ortiz, you have really need to apply the pressure, but do it smart. It's smart, calculated pressure. Stepping inside with a couple of hooks, but Alexander willing to oblige. They're both hooking with each other. Look at this action here in the 7th. A big straight left for Victor Ortiz. Ortiz has plenty of pop behind his punches, no doubt about it. But he has got to find that and needs to get into a rhythm, because anytime he gets into a rhythm, Devon Alexander throws him off his rhythm. Hooks there by Victor Ortiz and a 1-2 combination by Devon Alexander, followed by a right hook. Devon Alexander is fighting and is getting the better of the exchanges in close distance. 80 seconds remaining here in the 7th. John Shirley will separate them. Ortiz looking to crowd and put Devon Alexander in bad positions, but so far, and Alexander ripping to the body of Victor Ortiz. A right hook upstairs for Alexander. And if you're Victor Ortiz, you're fighting at Devon Alexander's pace. He's got to start to really go after it now. Close distance, and Alexander looks over at Ortiz, steps in with a right hook. Couple of lunging straight lefts for Victor Ortiz, and sometimes now Ortiz is getting to that point where you got to gamble. And that's going to leave him susceptible to be countered by Alexander, but you got to do something. You got to change the game plan here. That's the end of the 7th. Look at that combination. A hook and not throwing. He's got to do something significant because Alexander is demonstrating that he is the better counterpuncher. He's the faster fighter. And he's the more technical pugilist as well. Big straight left for Victor Ortiz. Now Ortiz has Alexander against the ropes. That's exactly what he wants to do. Ortiz has that concussive power in his hands. And Alexander making Ortiz think twice. See, Ortiz has got to come with a lot of punches and bunches instead of waiting and following around Alexander and thinking, because it's clear that Alexander has Victor Ortiz thinking twice and questioning himself. When you throw punches, you just have to commit. You just got to go for it. Easier said than done against someone who is as sharp as Devon Alexander, but this being on the outside is not working for you at all. 100 seconds left in the 8th. And a double right hook to the body of Victor Ortiz. Alexander has very good balance. And a chopping left hand. And what a big straight left hand by Devon Alexander. Snapping the head back of Victor Ortiz. Ortiz is taking punishment. No doubt about it. And you see it. It is so emblematic on his left eye. But the fans still cheering on Victor Ortiz here in El Paso. A straight left that connected by Ortiz. Devon Alexander keeping his distance. Ortiz looking to close the distance, but Alexander literally pushes him off. So we near the end of the 8th. A right hook that found its mark for Devon Alexander. A right hook there by Victor Ortiz. And let's take a look. The straight left followed by a right hook. Victor Ortiz early. But then Alexander, that jab, boom, that straight left followed by a right hook. Alexander is. Round 9 scheduled for 12. Ray Flores joining ringside here in El Paso. Big year for Premier Boxing Champions here in 2018. Victor Ortiz, the 31-year-old out of Garden City, Kansas, now living in Ventura, California. He's got to make some adjustments, and he needs to find something to derail the flow and the rhythm of Devon Alexander. Alexander has done that to Ortiz all night long. When Ortiz comes forward, he'll throw 1, 2, 3 punch combinations, or 2, 3 punch combinations, even 4 punch combinations. He throws straight lefts, he's throwing right hooks. Is Devon Alexander, he's throwing shots to the body. Alexander ties up, and Kevin Cunningham says, right back to the center of the ring. That's where I want you. And Ortiz is literally following Devon Alexander without really a plan. I'm sure Joseph Janik has a plan, but Victor Ortiz just following around Devon Alexander, and he's getting caught as he comes in. A sweeping right hook. Big shot by Victor Ortiz. He really needs to summon all the energy necessary to try to stem the tide of this fight in his favor. Alexander landing with an abundance of accuracy. Under a minute left here in the ninth. And more chants echoing here at the Don Haskins Center of Ortiz. But Victor Ortiz hasn't given them much to cheer for, because it has been Devon Alexander who is imposing his game plan and his will upon Victor Ortiz. And now in these final 3 rounds, as we approach the final 3 rounds, this is where, when you get tired, your hands start to drop. And Victor Ortiz, he does have power, so Devon Alexander cannot get careless. They both exchange hooks in the center of the ring here in El Paso. And here is some of the action from the ninth. As you see, Ortiz stepped inside. Alexander with the jab, followed by that right hook to the body. And 31-year-old who just celebrated his birthday last week, a week ago. Victor Ortiz turned 31 last month. Ortiz, now Victor Ortiz, he's really, at some point, he's gonna have to go for broke, because he's behind in the scorecards big time. And Ortiz stepping in with hooks, but Devon Alexander has had his number tonight. A big straight left that missed for Devon Alexander. Victor Ortiz, these 1 or 2 punches at a time is not doing him any favors. He needs a collection of punches to derail and try to throw off Devon Alexander. He's got to hurt Devon Alexander. I don't think Alexander's been hurt with much tonight. It has been a night at the office for the St. Louis native. A right hook inside for Devon Alexander. The swelling has been contained by Carlos Vargas, who's in the corner, and a nice uppercut on the inside, showing his craftiness, is Devon Alexander. And even though Devon Alexander doesn't have the highest knockout percentage, he does have power, because Victor Ortiz is not coming inside with as much reckless abandon as you would see in other fights with Ortiz. A sweeping right hook for Devon Alexander. Final moments of the 10th. The work from the 10th. A straight left by Devon Alexander. Scheduled for 12. Devon Alexander looking very good in this fight. Victor Ortiz, 2 rounds to go because he has to change things around. Devon Alexander says, Devon Alexander has been pretty adamant and has said, if I'm successful tonight, give me Errol Spence Jr. I'll fight Errol Spence tomorrow. And we asked him about that. He said, look, he goes, at this level, a straight left that connected by Devon Alexander, you're supposed to want to fight the best at all times. There isn't this picking and choosing. You're supposed to belong here at this level, and I feel I belong at the highest level. I've done it in the past, and I will do it in the near future. And the fans trying to pump up Victor Ortiz, but at close distance, Devon Alexander blows his nose for a brief second, try to clear out some air. And Ortiz just barreling in there, but he isn't doing anything. I think Victor Ortiz is tired, and now he's just fighting on sheer guts and determination. Now Devon Alexander's walking him down. Victor Ortiz is clearly exhausted, and Alexander is the fresher of the 2 fighters. Under a minute left here in this 11th round. Ortiz just tying up, but he isn't doing anything. He literally has not done anything. And this would be a very big defeat to Victor Ortiz. Maybe if Danny Garcia is successful against Brandon Rios, maybe Victor Ortiz, Brandon Rios. That could be a possibility, who knows? And that's just me putting my matchmaker hat on. Final stages of the 11th between Devon Alexander and Victor Ortiz. Very young kids, and they're fighting for the first time, and the fans trying to cheer on Victor Ortiz. This partisan crowd. Kevin Cunningham telling Devon Alexander, stay smart. And Ortiz has got to empty out the kitchen sink. He needs this. He needs a big 12th round here in El Paso against Devon Alexander. Alexander has looked very impressive throughout the fight. Good balance, jabbing, landing big straight lefts, countering Victor Ortiz with hooks. Also mixing in uppercuts as well. Ortiz in the chest of Alexander, but can he do something? John Shorley separates them. Under 2 minutes remaining. Don't forget, later tonight, it'll be Danny Garcia, Brandon Rios, also David Benavidez, Ronald Gavril. Under 90 seconds remaining in the fight. And Ortiz is close distance, but he isn't throwing. He literally is not throwing and is just there. Now he throws a sharp, straight left, close distance, under a minute remaining. They're both going to the body, and now Ortiz trying to load up. The loser of this fight will certainly drop in the rankings and will have to really figure out where they want to go with their career. The winner puts themselves in prime position for another big fight. Ortiz needs to summon the will here. Final 25 seconds. They're both exchanging hooks to the body. Final 10 seconds. Devon Alexander looked very impressive tonight against Victor Ortiz. Ortiz brought what he had, but it doesn't appear as if it was enough. They embrace. Scores about 115.